Venti, the Animal Archon rerun is upon us, and today I'll be going over Venti's kit, weapons, artifacts, and team comps so you can decide if Venti is worth your gems or not. Also, before I get into discussing and showcasing all that, I would like to thank everyone for subscribing to me. I recently just hit 50 subscribers, so thank you all for subscribing and watching my content. At the end of this video, I will have an announcement about my next upcoming video and a giveaway I plan on doing in that video. So I hope you all look forward to it. With that said, let's get into this video and let's walk through.
Wouldn't gliding be faster?
Never mind, let's take Venti's advice. Let us glide through Venti's kit. Alright, let's start with Venti's normal attack, Divine Marksmanship. Divine Marksmanship is a fast 6-hit normal attack. And for Venti's charge attack, he fires an arrow that is infused with Anima. Venti's elemental skill, Skyward Sonnet, unleashes a short burst of wind dealing animal damage when pressed and knocking up small enemies. But when you hold it, it will make a wind current that can be used to glide into the air, and you can use it to do plunge attacks. Also, it is useful for getting to higher places or reaching items in the air. Venti's elemental burst, Wind's Grand Ode, fires off an arrow creating a storm's eye,
Time for
which
takeoff.
then draws in non-boss enemies and lifts them a bit into the air, dealing animal damage over time. And when a storm's eye is infused with other elements such as hydro, pyro, cryo, and electro, it will deal additional elemental damage of that type. Lastly, we have Venti's 3 passive talents, starting with Embrace of Winds. When you hold the E skill for Skyward Sonnet, the wind current it creates will last 20 seconds. Second passive talent, Storm Eye, will regenerate 15 energy for Venti when the effect of Wind's Grand Ode ends. Regardless if it hits an enemy or not, you will still get the 15 energy.
Think you can get away?
And if an elemental absorption occurs, this will also restore 15 energy to all characters of that corresponding element in the party. Lastly, we have Wind Rider, which decreases gliding stamina consumption for your own party by 20%, which I will have an example of that shown on screen so you all can see. And lastly, before we move on to weapons, let's go over Venti's cons, starting with C1, which will allow him to fire 2 additional arrows per aim shot, each dealing 33% of the original arrow damage. Con 2, Skyward Sonnet decreases opponent's animal resist and physical resist by 12% for 10 seconds. Opponent's launch by Skyward Sonnet suffers an additional 12% animal resist and physical resist, decreased while airborne. Con 3 will add 3 talent levels to Wind's Grand Ode. Con 4, when Venti picks up an elemental orb or particle, he will receive a 25% animal damage bonus for 10 seconds. Con 5 will add 3 talent levels to Skyward Sonnet. And lastly, Con 6, targets who take damage from Wind Grand Ode have their animal resist decreased by 20%. If an elemental absorption occurred, then their resist towards the corresponding element is also decreased by 20%. For weapons, I'll be going over 3 good weapons for Venti, starting with his signature 5-star weapon, Elegy for the End, which gives energy recharge, and the passive will give 60 elemental mastery, and each time you use a elemental skill or burst that hits the opponent, you will gain a sigil of remembrance every 0.2 seconds. At 4 sigils of remembrance, all nearby party members will gain 100 elemental mastery and their attack will be increased by 20%. Once this effect is triggered, you will not gain any more sigil of remembrance for 20 seconds. Elegy for the End is a very amazing weapon for Venti if you are able to attain it, but it is locked behind the weapon banner, which is pretty annoying to roll on. But if you are able to get this weapon, it is an amazing support weapon for Venti that will give your team a massive power boost. The next weapon I'll be talking about is another 5-star weapon called Skyward Harp. It gives crit rate, and also the passive will give 20% crit damage, and hits will have a 60% chance to inflict a small AoE. Attack, dealing 125% of physical attack damage. This effect can only occur every 4 seconds. This weapon is very strong if you're going for physical damage Venti that you'd be relying on his divine marksmanship. The final weapon that I like to talk about is a 4-star weapon called the Stringless. This weapon gives elemental mastery, and the passive increases elemental skill and elemental burst damage by 48% at max refinement, and at refinement 1 it will increase elemental skill and burst damage by 24%. This is an amazing 4-star option for Venti since it gives a massive increase to elemental skill and burst, and the elemental mastery it provides is very useful on Venti to get higher reaction damage. It makes it a very powerful 4-star option for Venti. So there will be 2 artifact sets that I'll be going over for Venti. The first one being the Viridescent set, which is most likely his best set. It gives 2-piece gives animal damage bonus, and the 4-piece increases swirl damage by 60% and decreases opponent elemental resist to the element infused in swirl by 40%, which lasts for 10 seconds. This is a very powerful artifact set on Venti, and it's most likely his best in slot. Another good artifact set for Venti would most likely be Emblem of Severed Fate. The 2-piece will provide him with energy recharge, and the 4-piece will increase his burst damage by 25%, up to a maximum of 75% based on Venti's energy recharge. This artifact set seems like it'll be very good for burst spam Ventis. Alright, now I'll be showing off Venti team comps that I like to use. I'll be showing my Pyro, Electro, and Freeze team comps that I like to put together for Venti. Note that you can use any characters that you have or that may be your favorite characters or characters that you like for these team comps, as long as you can get the element to be infused into Venti's skills, it should work just fine. These are just characters that I like to use with Venti. And for my first team, I like to use my Pyro Vaporize team with Venti, which is a very expensive team since it's all 5-star characters. But with Yoimiya's ult being applied to enemies, that will spread to more enemies on death, and will do AoE pyro damage when it interacts with an elemental reaction, and throwing Khalees bombs into Venti's burst while the enemies is all grouped up, and having Mona apply Hydra to them. It's a very fun chain of reactions that I like to do with this team comp. Another team comp that I like to do with Venti is my Electro Charge team, which I use Kokomi, Fisho, and Mona for. Kokomi and Mona applies the Hydro, while Fisho applies the electricity to the enemy. and Venti's burst groups them all up. This team comp is very fun, having all the enemies grouped up with Kokomi's jellyfish, Mona's taunt, and Fisho's Oz doing continuous damage. And my final team comp that I like to use with Venti is Ganyu Freeze comp with Venti's ult and Kokomi and Mona constantly applying Hydro to the enemies. Venti's ult would have all the enemies grouped up for Ganyu, so you can just fire your Frost Arrow into the swirling storm that Venti makes with his burst, constantly freezing enemies and striking all enemies with Ganyu's burst arrow, inflicting high AoE damage. So my final thoughts on Venti. I'll say Venti is an amazing crowd control unit that can easily group enemies up for you. Enemies that's more annoyingly spread out on the stages, like in domains and stuff, he can easily group them up for your single target characters to easily strike them down, or your AoE characters to easily hit all enemies with burst damage, since Venti's ult can pull in enemies and keep them there for quite amount of time. Also, Venti's E skill is good for exploration, reaching higher places, so I'll say Venti's very good in open world aspects. I believe if you do not got an animal character like Kazuha, or you do not got a good unit that can crowd control for you, I would say Venti is worth your gems, but ultimately that is fully up for you to decide. But those are just my final thoughts on Venti. Let me know what you think in the comments below if I missed anything on Venti, or if there's anything I could have did better. And now lastly, next week I have a Battle Pass video planned for Ganyu that will showcase the new bow that was added to the Battle Pass back at the release of Fontaine. And in that video, I will be announcing a giveaway to show appreciation for reaching 50 subscribers. And with that said, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.